Welcome to another episode of Fusing the Unfusable. Today we have a builder with us, somebody who's really important to the Apex Fusion ecosystem. And, welcome, Srdjan. Welcome. Great to have you here. I'm going to introduce you briefly. Srdjan Vukmirovic, did I pronounce it well? Is your university professor. And with a team of your fellow professors at Novi Sad University, you guys have built this software company called Ethernal.
Yes.
And you guys are building blockchains. You're in fact building several critical elements of the Apex Fusion ecosystem that you've actually already built, and some are still building.
Yes.
It's really great to have you here with us. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you for having me. So I can start with Ethernal. Ethernal is a company for software development in Novi Sad, Serbia. We have more than 50 developers, 12 of them are PhDs, and we are specialized in blockchain protocol level. We have worked with Polygon, Avail, ecosystems, and last but not least, with Apex Fusion, where we're creating a reactor bridge and Skyline bridge that will connect other community with Apex community.
Yeah, and I was really excited to hear about your product that you're developing, which is Blade. So, it's like a Swiss Army knife for private blockchain deployments. What kind of enterprises or governments use cases do you see this unlocking? And what's the reaction when they realize they can spin up their own chain?
It is great, thank you. So Blade is a product specialized for enterprise systems, but for standard industry. Our background is smart grid power distribution. And so we understood that in order to get into this kind of enterprise, you have to have specialized blockchain. So our first industry that we want to attract is power distribution and telecommunication. And we made a few more steps in order to make this blockchain good enough for real-time system, for mission-critical systems. And in order to get into ecosystem of the smart grid, we had to adjust a little bit.
That's really interesting. And what's the feedback? I mean, I know that you've been having some meetings, and what's the reaction you're getting when you tell them, this is a blockchain that you can deploy on-prem, in the cloud, and it's, completely, we can configure it whichever way you want as a private blockchain. What's their reaction? Okay,
before they didn't know about blockchain, just the crypto, and it was like everything was bad there. But when we explain them that this is decentralized database that will help them with some trust issue in their systems, they're very, very, very excited. And since I was part of the cloud transformation of similar companies, I know that they usually want to start with on-premise in order to understand and to make it use, and maybe later on they will go to public chains. So this is the first step, that they can have it in their own ecosystem, in their own environment, try it, use it, understand it, and then eventually go, of course, to the public.
You don't know how grateful we are to have you doing that. Maybe most people don't know, but for me, this is the key to adoption of these systems by enterprise and government. So what you're doing is essential. Thank you for doing that. These are the hard conversations that have to happen, convincing people and changing the way they operate, that will lead us to a better world. Because right now, these companies and enterprises that you're talking to are struggling, trying to reconcile Excel sheets and never being sure of their data or finances, credits and debits. And you're resolving that, aren't you, with potentially with these blockchains?
Yes, of course. First, they had to have a certain level of digitalization. So they had to go from paperwork to digital world. And after that, we saw some additional problem where you don't have a single point of truth, or you don't have a single trusting party, but you can have a community, or, for example, energy traders or telecommunication operators. They want to exchange their data, but they don't want to exchange it all, and want to be in control what parts are exchanged. So this is very difficult. It's a long sales cycle. For example, 1 to 2 years. It's not like you launch a token and in 3 days you have billions. But it is industry that's really long term. For example, in smart grid, it's 10 to 20 years to replace some projects. So it is long sales cycle, but without, our opinion is that without a real industry adoption, blockchain will always would always remain like a niche product.
It's so important that you guys are doing that. Let's dig in a little bit further. So we talk about privacy versus decentralization. It's often framed as a trade-off. How do you see Ethernal and Blade navigating this tension and resistance?
So it is a trade-off that must be done. So it is not in any use case you can use any kind of product. So even in traditional database, you can do some encryption of some part and some other thing done. So case to case, we solve and describe to them, this is part of the data or your processes that must be private, that must be encrypted, and maybe the second part is not. So it's like you said Swiss knife, but we can adopt speed. Some of blockchains don't need like thousands of transactions. Then they maybe need less transactions, but they need more speed or block time. So our blockchain is very configurable to try to solve as diverse problems as it can. Privacy is of course one of them. So we can add an additional layer of encryption to protect a part of data or all of data and so on.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And do you agree that the solution is often multi-chain? It's not always one chain that can solve the whole problem, right?
Yeah. Like without blockchain in big enterprises, you have 5 different types of database. You have relationship database, you have time series database, you have maybe cache or memory database. So a different part of problems is solved by different databases. It's not one for all. And blockchain will add additional functionality where needed. So I'm not sure that in any moment in the future all the data will be on blockchain. It is not needed, but part of data will be there, and then different type of chains can be used for different purposes.
And that's our USP at Apex Fusion. As you know, we're merging multiple chains and we're promoting this idea of private chains, public chains working together to solve one problem. Yeah. And this is something that we've not seen really that much. So it's really exciting. And thank you for clarifying all that about the databases and that complexity that you've been exposed to because you've been in that industry in the power distribution. And speaking of power distribution, there was a huge power outage a few days ago in Spain. They're still trying to understand what happened, and it affected Portugal and France. And the chaos that ensued is like scary. It's like a scary movie. If they had blockchains, wouldn't they be better able to pinpoint where the problems were?
Yeah, depend what was the problem. So power distribution is very complex. The network model is very complex. So it can be, I don't know what is this concrete problem, but it can be different part of the problem. But if it is some kind of privacy issue, blockchain will help them. If there was a problem of where data is it collected okay, blockchain will be the part. So blockchain is not a silver bullet. It will not solve all the problems, but some, of course, will solve.
Amazing. And if it was a cyber attack, do blockchains protect these large systems from cyber attacks?
It can help with that, of course. It can detect the intrusion, DDoS attacks, and some other.
Before we jump to Apex Fusion, what more would you like us to know about Blade? And I'd love for you to leverage our platform to talk to the community about Blade, and maybe there's others that could help you push through and get the right leads for this product.
Yeah. So why we think that we are the right team and right solution for enterprises? Because blockchain, other blockchain teams think only about the blockchain. But when we speak to big enterprise customers, they almost never ask us about TPS, about the block time, about the number of blocks that you produce. They ask you about, do you offer 24/7 support? Do you offer business continuity, how you will import my data, and so on. So totally different questions. And we know these questions and can help with them. So it is much more difficult to sell something to big companies that have all 30 or 40 years of experience in their field
and that legacy, all these systems they have. I come from the digital transformation space, enterprise architecture-led digital transformation. And what we ran into when we were doing that was nobody looks at the whole thing. They always look at just one element, or if you talk to a vendor, they're just selling you one tool in the toolbox. Taking everything into consideration, being able to have the right conversations at the board level, at the C level, and explaining the problem without having to go into the two technical details so important, and I commend you for doing that. And I think that the businesses are going to value that because you understand their industry as well. So you speak, you understand their problem, you take their perspective, and I think that's going to ensure your success. And I really wish you the luck with that. I'm excited to see where that goes. Now let's talk about Apex Fusion for a little bit. You know, what excites you most about the Apex Fusion ecosystem? You've been involved in the weeds. What do you think we're doing differently that others are missing?
I think that the good thing now that you're doing is product first, functionality first, and utility first, and after that, all other things that other blockchains are doing, like airdrops and just having a FUD without any utility. That is what attracted me. So let's first do something that's really needed, that can be done in time frame that we define, not like in 5 years or just drawing names like after super chain with that will conquer the world and post quantum and AI.
We're being practical, and
that's what attracted me. So practical, knowing what you're doing, knowing how to approach the both the customers and the investor and so on. It sounded like a sleek approach.
Amazing. We're proud of that. Your work sits at the intersection of enterprise grade tooling and decentralized network. Is there a moment or client feedback that really validated your vision?
Most of them understand us and how to do that. We are now in some prototype type. So basically, it's very difficult to they want it, but is it really a painkiller for them? Does they bring them more revenue or more visibility? That is the kind of the conversation we have. So okay, we want that. This is nice new tool, shiny tool. How we can use it and how it will either bring us more revenue or cut our costs. That is the part of the thing that.
This is an interesting, an interesting point, right? I've sat often at the table with IT and business, and there's always this kind of, business wants profit, they want sexy solutions, they want glitzy, shiny things. IT are working hard trying to manage the ecosystem and managing the complexity and trying to control demand, and they're usually overworked, and there's this continuous struggle. And this continues to this day. The CEO might have this grand vision, and then somebody has to kind of translate that back to the technical team or the IT team and somehow convert it into reality. So it's really interesting. I think selling to enterprise is something that I have experience in and on complex projects, similar to power grids, and so and being able to translate the vision of the CEO who's excited about something and bringing something that's practical, and then actually convincing the IT team to do it is a challenge. So I can only imagine the challenge that you guys face. You have conversations often with C-level, maybe with the CEO. We've gone through a cycle with blockchain, right? There was a lot of hype around blockchain. IT was maybe excited, they presented it, but then they couldn't justify it or it didn't deliver the results. And now it feels like we have a second chance.
Yeah. So basically, what is also very important or very difficult, because sometimes something that's very easy to create seems complicated, and vice versa. They say, just put this button here, but that button that break all the story, and then it's very difficult for them to understand, no, you don't need it, or maybe we'll do it later. So he's a CEO, he wants to have this shiny report, although nobody will use it. But this is like normal things. We are in the industry for 20 years, and we know how it works. But I think that I'm not sure that blockchain was ready in 2017. Definitely in last bull cycle, we have looked at most of the code that claimed to be like enterprise ready. They were not enterprise ready. I think now that the code is much, much better. Technology is much more mature. And we added this part that you can connect to enterprise service bus, to connect to existing database. So it's easy to, like, few weeks or up to 2 months to really integrate. You don't need half a year or two to get it, because otherwise the hype will pass and you will never finish your project. So you have to be able to deliver something with 6 weeks, 2 months period.
I think this is so important, and I will include the links to your company in the description, because I think this is really important. The fact that you guys have understood and gone into, you know, and being able to explain the challenges that the blockchain tech faced. You went in and you think you have something that's compelling, that's resolved that issue, and you can address those issues that in the past were completely missed.
It was two separate islands, the good blockchain, and then they say, okay, we are providing you blockchain and you do all the rest. No, you have to do these few steps in order to make blockchain easy to put into their enterprise, because they already have data centers, they already have like hundreds of different softwares, dozens of different technologies, and you have to approach them. They will not spend 6 months to learn and to try to use your software, because they already have these guys from inside the enterprises already have a lot of their plates, and then they have 6 months to spend learning your technology. You have to approach them to connect to Active Directory or some other kind of repository of the users, to a repository of customers and so on, and make it easy. For example, we can, if it is all on the service bus, we have API calls that almost we can do prototype in a few weeks, because you would add blockchain and all the existing calls will just be rerouted or copied to our database, and they can have results within weeks.
This is really amazing, and I think we need to get this word out there, because this is going to really help them. And I think once they understand that you have a practical approach to implement, right, and to deliver a proof of concept, or what's your sales process like? Is it a proof of concept first?
First, we come to speak to understand what is the blockchain, not to oversell. So it's not a magic wand. Then we can say, okay, what is your most important problems that we have so far? We pick one of them and say, okay, this is the one that we can solve, and then we can do a prototype, usually in less than 2 months, to show them that it's really working. That's very important, that they understand how easy it is. It's not still easy. It's not like SQL Server or Oracle, just you can install within a few hours, but it can be done quite easily, or in few weeks, and they can get results. That's very important for them, and they don't have to change too much in their environment.
Because their architecture has been modernized. Now they do use this architecture and buses and so forth. Srdjan, thank you so much for coming. I'll say one thing: you have a local rep here in Dubai that's based here.
Yes,
and he's also, I think, or PhD, and Vladimir, and I've had the chance to meet him. So, you know, your message to the community is you have boots on the ground, you're ready to have those conversations, you're ready to have those meetings. So anybody wants to talk to you, and we're going to include the links in the description.
We also have direct flight from Belgrade to Dubai. 2 times per day, so I can be here in 1 day or 2. So.
That's so amazing. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for everything you've done for Apex Fusion. We're very, very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.